Okay. So I'm gonna open up in prayer just to, secure the line and for God to have his way, and then we'll get started. All right, Father God, we just want to thank you for tonight, for allowing us to come together to fellowship and just speak on the things that you have given us, our experiences, our testimony, our stories, and things that can bring forth the breakthroughs of others. I just ask that you just have your way on tonight, that you may be glorified, give us the words to say. Ask that you will secure this line, that there is no connection issues or interferences. Allow your will to be done. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is episode 3 of Limitless Faith Podcast. Tonight, we are talking about being equally yoked, and this is the women's edition. So, we got the ladies in the house tonight. We have y'all representing from all over. Miss Rachael from Texas. We got Miss Cherrilleye from Oklahoma, and then Miss Terrie all the way in Florida. Hey, welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. How y'all feeling tonight?
Feeling good. Feeling good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I know we all have like different experiences and things that we bring to the table. So just being able to collaborate together is just like an amazing thing.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking about being equally yoked. So when you hear that, what's the first thing to come to mind? What is equally yoked to you? Let's start with the single ladies. So Miss Cherrilleye.
Ah. um, Equally yoked. I mean, companionship, um, just being equal. Not gonna use the word equal and equally yoked. It's like not how you define it, right? But no, just being with the right person. Um, Somebody that is just for you, like you walk in agreement. It's not necessarily perfect, but I guess agreement was the one word that came to mind when thinking about equally yoked.
All right. And then for us in a committed relationship, what you say over there, Miss Rachael?
It's so funny because in people's mind, people truly believe that, as long as two are believers, they're equally yoked. No,
Right.
no. How can two walk together unless they agree? So just piggybacking on what our Miss single lady mentioned, it is about being in agreement with each other. Can you all walk the same pace? Can you all go the same speed? What are you? Can your visions line up with each other's? Do you have the same mental, spiritual, and financial understanding? Is your mindset the same? Do you think the same way? Walk the same way? Because if you don't, if you're unequally yoked, it's going to cause a lot of frustration, a lot of heartache. So it's very important to understand that equally yoked is not just, well, we're two believers, we're saved, so we're equally yoked. You can be on whole two different seasons of your life, two different mindsets, and when those things don't come together, it's you're unequally yoked. And so it's very important when going into marriage or becoming one with somebody, because when you become one, automatically you're one flesh. So you have to be able to walk in agreement. You have to be able to walk at the same pace. I can't be, if my mind is somewhere where I'm like, okay, these are my visions, these are my goals, this is where I want to be, and you're not at the same pace. That means I got to stop what I'm doing. I got to slow down. I got to help you get your mental together, motivate you to get to where I am, and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So that's my understanding of what I feel like equally yoked means. If I can add an analogy, um, really a yoke is a tool that is used to help animals walk at the same pace, at the same speed. That's just what I think of. I think of the actual yoke, which was used to keep animals going the same direction in the same pace, at the same pace. So that's my input.
You over there preaching, girl.
Yeah, but I'm about sick.
Miss Terrie, are you able to chime in?
I'm here. Sorry, I'm also working.
Very good.
But after all of that, I don't think I have to add. I think she said
Yeah,
it
I
all.
love you too. Amen. Hey, Rachel done dropped the mic on us with that one.
Yeah, but she did really good. I agree with everything she said. Every last word, I agree with.
Right. So, single ladies, my single lady on the line. How would you say you would balance your relationship with God and a relationship with a partner? So, how are you preparing for, that relationship with somebody? Even if you were to start dating, how would you be able to, find that balance?
I'll jump in real quick. So, one thing that I've been practicing is time management.
Mm,
In just in general, because even as just being women, we have so many roles already. I know I'm a single mom, and then I do like so many different things, have so many different jobs in general and everything. And so time management has been something that the Lord has really just been um pressing and like, look, get it together. I've given you all these visions and this and the playbook and kind of just what you need to do. But in order to make that happen, being very wise with the way you spend your time, not just with him, but just in general is important. And so time management, making schedules, even for putting it in your schedule for the things that you want to do. Sometimes we leave that out in in our agenda, and so it's hard later to try to go and fit things back in. And I'm not necessarily saying like, oh, you got to make schedule time to schedule a date, but sometimes it might start off that way. Like me, I've been single forever and ever, you know. And so I was dating though here recently, and yeah, just making the time to have those moments. He was a busy guy as well, and had a lot on his plate, and so just having those conversations. Okay, what's the best time for us to meet up? And I think when you get with someone equally yoked and on the same path as you, as far as like driven with in their career and even the things of God, like you both have an understanding, like we're not gonna always be together in the same place at the same time. Realistically speaking, especially like you're not living with that person. And so just having that understanding and being realistic, setting realistic expectations, but not procrastinating, taking full advantage of the time that you had.
I feel you on that. Is it any different for you, Rachel, being in a relationship, trying to balance the two?
It is. It is very different. So we actually, what we do now is we take time apart to make sure that, of course, we're devoting ourselves to Christ. Where where we need to be spiritually. So we're in our Word. We take time apart. I know one time we took probably 3 or 4 days, of just fasting, praying, and consecrating, and not even seeing each other. Like we didn't talk. If he had to talk to me, hey, our child needs this or whatever, but outside of that, we didn't talk. We didn't see each other. Like we literally didn't see each other, and it's crazy because since we started dating, we've literally been together every single day. So we get to the points where we're like, okay, hey, we feel like we're falling off in this area, so we need to spend some time apart. We need to get in our Word. So that's how we balance. We just take time to make sure that we're still on our spiritual journey as individuals, as well as together as a pair.
That's good.
So, Terry, when we're talking about, having that individuality and still having, time for ourselves and knowing ourselves, what are some things that while we're, in that moment of just learning who we are and we're pursuing someone for marriage, what are some things that we should know about our partner before we even say I do?
Mm,
For me specifically, my big things were like knowing what his life goals were. Like everybody has goals and priorities and all that. And for me, it was wanting to know like where he saw himself in 3 years, where he saw himself in 5 years, and were they compatible with our relationship, and did we see that working out within the both of us. So we talked about finances, kids, like where we want to live, how we want to live, different things like that. And I mean, of course, there's always things that we're not going to agree on, we didn't agree on, but we found ways to compromise and make it work. And here we are.
So, Rachel, I want you to piggyback off of that because what y'all don't know about Rachel, I'm not telling her story or her testimony, but she was married before. So,
Mhm.
what are some things that you would say that, you wish you would have knew about your partner before you said I do?
Well, so the whole issue with that is, first of all, and I had to repent because I knew that that was not my husband. And because I was so focused or set on trying to fulfill my fleshly desires, I did not even care. Matter of fact, I was just like, you know, people were telling me that ain't, I don't care. I'm happy. I'm in love. I'm going to do this. And not knowing that, first of all, my husband at the time wasn't even saved at all. So we had just totally two different spiritual beliefs. We didn't talk about those things. Terrie was mentioning about, discipline, which is important to kids. How we would plan to, discipline. How does that play a part, especially if you already have kids? That's an important conversation. Your finances. Where do you feel like you are in 5 to 10 years? What are your visions? What are your goals? What can you bring to the table? What I can offer? What I can bring to the table? None of those conversations were had before I decided to just go ahead and get married. And so it became later on where, I didn't even think to say, okay, is he a liar? Is he a potential cheater? Is he, what kind of character does he have? Is he a man of integrity? I didn't focus on any of that. So after marriage, it was a situation where, there was infidelity, not just physical, but, financial. He was giving money and all kind of stuff. So, it was very important that I should have went on ahead and had those conversations. So those are the talks that I'm having now. Because later on in that marriage, I found out that our whole mindset was just different. Kids, finances, our goals, what we want in 5 years, 10 years, everything was just complete opposite, unequally yoked, complete opposite. And so 5 months later, divorced. A dark, dark, dark time. So I said, you know what, Lord, if you get me out of this, I will never undermine you. I will never, shut you out. I will allow everything to be done the way you want it to be. And so I literally took me out. Literally, I had moved out of state and everything. When I went to move back after I found out about the infidelity, I was able to come back to my job. They said the resignation hadn't even gone through the system. You can go come back. Come on back. I was able to go back, and everything was just the same. Everything was the same when I came back. And so I just knew it was God just, allowing me to get out that situation. And, being in a relationship now, I'm like, okay, I'm looking at everything. Is he a man of integrity? What's his character like? Is he like he gonna be a cheater? Is he? My antennas are just up. We talk about those things like Terrie mentioned. Kids, where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years? What are your goals? Well, how are we gonna work together in this? Well, when we get married, you just have to have those talks. So that's it's the integration part for me is much different than before because the partner that I have now, I know is for me. So it's just making sure that we knock all those little, things out and get those out of the way now.
Um, so speaking of someone being for you, Cherrille, who is the right one for you? And how would you know if you were to meet him today or run across him? How would you know that he is for you?
I don't know who the right one is. I haven't met him yet. Nah. That's a very tough question. I don't know if I can really answer that. because what I thought I wanted at one point, I don't. You know, I definitely know. I I mean, I could give like the deep answer, the one that God has, right? That's the deep answer, the one that God has. But no, the one that supports me, definitely loyal, just in general. These are, I mean, just the characteristics of a good person, you know. Love God with all his heart, with all his mind, for sure, and everything. And you know, stable. Not perfect, but stable. Stability is important. and and working on his goals, and you know, like the way that I see relationships. And so I tell people I don't ask for anything that I can't bring to the table. I've just been that type of person. So I'm respectful, I'm loyal, I'm committed. I'm educated, highly educated. I handle my business, you know. I'm very driven. And so I don't, most of all, I love God. Ministry is what I do. It's who, you know, I'm called to this, right? And so anything outside of that, it's just not a good fit. Education is very important to me, and everything. And so one that can be a companion, that's the right one that I can literally walk in agreement with. And I do realize that it's a lot of people that don't really care about education to that extent. You know what I mean? Of which I do. You know, people do what they want to do, you know. And so, but what I expect, and what I don't even want to say it's a list or anything. I just know what I'm able to bring to the table. And so someone that can definitely connect and just be a companion, like we're in this thing together, you know, not try to, you know, be, I guess, controlling. That's like, you know. And I want a partner. I want a partner, not a daddy. And that's a whole nother conversation, right? But I want a partner, somebody I can grow with and God with, in life, and fulfilling goals. And so that's who the right one would be. I don't know who that will be, but I'm looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to it. So, okay.
What are some of the red flags? That's what I wanted to talk about. What are some of those red flags that your ladies seen that you were like, hey, no, this is definitely not the one for me. I know God didn't send him to me. So what are some of those red flags? Whichever one of you ladies want to jump in on that one, that you seen, and it was just waving in the air and you was like, no. And do you get a lot of those red flags in today's dating world?
Mm. You want to go?
You can
So,
go. Go ahead.
okay. I mean, so, I mean, there's red flags. I would say insecurities. Insecurities is a very, very big one, I would say. And not even just for men, you know what I mean? But any relationship, right? Friendships, whatever. Insecurities destroy relationships, you know. And because one, if you're not secure with who you are, it's just hard to love someone else if you don't know your identity, and what you want to do, and you individualism. Like, it's hard to join with someone genuinely and from a sincere place. And so I would say insecurities is tearing relationships up, and the lack of communication. Those two things and are the biggest to me outside of not believing the same thing spiritually. And the world we live in, I mean, it doesn't really help because it's always comparing one person to the next, and everything that we see. I mean, even the kids in elementary, like, it's like, who has the longer hair, and who's the cutest, who has the best clothes, and it starts at a young age. It happens in in families growing up, and people just don't know who they are. And so when it's time to do relationships with a significant other and a partner, like, we're just carrying these patterns that we've learned, and our parents have taught us, or the people that are close to us have taught us, and we're continuing them. And so while a lot of people think they know who they are, they don't. And they're not doing their personal work. I'm a therapist, so like, personal work is important. And it's a lot of broken people that get into relationships, and they're trying to find themselves in brokenness. Oh my Lord, I'm not even gonna go there, but it's
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was just about to tiptoe on that. You said bringing up doing your own personal work. I think that is so important. Now, with that, do you think, and Terrie, Rachel, we're going to get back to that question for you too. But with that, do you think you must heal before you go on to the next partner, or before you continue to date with the next person? Is that a must? Healing before you move on?
Absolutely. We are forever growing and changing, and I'll let you answer this too, Terrie, but we're forever growing and changing. And so healing is not just a one-time process or situation. Healing is a continuing thing, because life is happening every single day. And so when one thing well, it seems like I've been talking about a lot just in therapy and doing groups and things, is loss and grieving. And every loss isn't a bad loss, right? And so we have to understand, it's about how we perceive it, right? How we look at this situation. Every loss is not a bad loss. And so healing has to happen. I mean, especially if you put time, you invested energy and your heart into a relationship, whether it's with a significant other, or a friendship, or a family member, whoever, any relationship, if it ends, you have to go through a grieving process, right? The problem is, a lot of people don't know how to grieve. We push it, we shove it under the rug, right? And we're like, oh, it's over, and we act out of anger, but then we carried on into another relationship we still have that anger for these people, right? We still have grudges, and we seen them on set, we gonna fight now. And so, like, we have all these emotions that have not been dealt with, and we carried on into another relationship thinking that this relationship will be better, when in actuality, even if the person is better and you want to do better, it's almost impossible, because you have brought unnecessary baggage. Healing is necessary, and so yeah, you have to heal. Will you be completely healed? It looks different for different people. But I do believe, as women of God, and men of God, if you're listening, if you want to steward the people that God brings to you and give you correctly, you have to do the work. Heal properly.
Okay, now healing is necessary. So, Ms. Rachel, so I was asking you, what are some of those red flags? Like, when you meet a guy, or when you were going through your dating process before you got with your committed man now, what did that look like in the dating world? Some of those red flags.
I will say I am most blessed to have my that way. That right there, that dating is for the birds. I'm telling you, like, I would go out on dates with No, like it was terrible. Like I was like, Lord, if you don't send them, I'm done forever because I can't do this. This I can't do. And so I was dating, and when I while I was dating, I would sit across the table from the guys I would date, and we'll get on religion, and they'll say stuff like, what is your perspective on spirituality or on God? And I believe in our God, our Father, our Heavenly Father. And it was a situation where a guy was like, oh well, I believe that there's a higher power, and I believe that we're gods. Us men, we're gods. And I'm like, to who? To who? That was a red flag for me. I was like, oh no, nope, nope, nope. I like check, please. Where's the waitress? Please give us our check today. So that was one of the things. I think that another red flag, or any type of characteristics of being controlling, manipulative, any type of toxic traits, like Cherrille was mentioning about having the control issues, and having toxic traits. I think those kind of are red flags for me. Past hurt, past childhood trauma that you haven't gotten past. That's a big one. That's really big, because I feel like whatever trauma you dealt with your childhood, if you haven't gotten help with that, then it's gonna bring some situations if you're trying to get into a relationship, marriage, things like that. So that's red flag. Spirituality, you have characteristics of being controlling, manipulative, have any type of toxic traits, or like, that's what I was trying to say. She had mentioned lack of communication. I think that's a big one as well. I piggyback with her on that. It's very important, and I realized it. I didn't realize it until I was challenged in my current relationship, that it's very important to be able to communicate properly and effectively. If you, and she was, mentioning that, insecurities can break and tear a relationship. Lack of communication is just another, it's another, death in a relationship. I mean, it can really hurt the relationship. So I had to learn now, even with me, to work on my communication skills. Because once something bothers me, I'll, probably shut down, and I won't talk for 3 days, and that's not healthy. That's not healthy. So,
Miss Terrie, I just had a question for you about, how do we prepare to be married? So all the single ladies out there, what is it, that we should be doing during that time to prepare to become a wife? Is it a difference between being a girlfriend and being a wife? What advice would you give to those ladies?
I definitely think there's a difference between being a girlfriend and being a wife, but I think it's a challenge to fully prepare to be a wife, and then everybody's going to be a little bit different. But I would say for me, it's about getting your own self together, getting your own goals and setting all that stuff up as well before you expect it from a man. So I would say that, I had to prepare myself mentally and say, okay, am I prepared to do this? Like, what are the outcomes? Because at the end of the day, this person sleeps next to you every night. So you got to say, can I deal with this snoring every day? Like, can I deal with the fact that he doesn't put the cat pat back on the toothpaste, and, all of that. So it definitely takes a lot. So I think, at least for me, I tried living with my partner before we got married. That didn't work too well. This was with a previous relationship. Once we lived together, I feel like he got way too comfortable in the relationship. And at that point, it was, what's the point of putting a ring on it if we live together? She cooked for me, she cleaned for me, she do everything a wife is supposed to do. Why do I need to propose to her? Why do I need to put a ring on it? So that was a fail. After that happened with my husband now, I was like, we're not living together until you put a ring on it. Like, you need to propose to me, something, before we just live together. We would do sleepovers and stuff like that, but I was like, unless you put a ring on it, we're not going any further than me having a toothbrush in your bathroom, you having a toothbrush in my bathroom, and that's it.
So you had to lay down the law, Miss Terrie. You was like,
Basically. I mean, it was a lesson learned. So
hmm
went from there, and we talked it over, and he agreed. He had never been in a situation where he lived with anyone either. So we talked about that, and he agreed. So we tested that out, worked out the kinks, figured out things that we had to make compromises on. And there's always going to be compromise. There's always going to be things he does that get on my nerves. And I'm sure that there's things that I do that get on his nerves, but we figured that out, and we made it work. So I would say, for the single ladies, don't settle. I would say put your foot down when it comes to certain things, because men tend to easily get comfortable. And sometimes we have to remind them that, like, they're a treasure, but we're a treasure too. So much as you want to be with us, we want to be with you, but there's certain things that we got to get in line before, we finalize it. Because just because you got the ring don't mean, like, I could have been engaged forever before we actually got married. So, the ring could be there, but final step is standing before God and saying those vows. And once that happens, crap, it's over.
So the lady should definitely put a time frame also after the engagement. They should let them know, like, hey, I'm not trying to be engaged forever.
I don't know if there's necessarily a time frame, because you could be engaged and it could just take both of y'all a while to figure out what you want. You want to be together, but it could just take you a while to, get your ducks in a row and figure out what works for the two of you. So I wouldn't necessarily say that there needs to be a timeline, but I definitely think that both heads need to be in the same place before that big commitment is made.
Okay. So I wanted Miss Rachel to piggyback on this one, because I wanted to go into, I know you guys were saying, like, don't move in with each other. I know Miss Terrie was saying that, but how do you know, how will you know how a person live? Some women are interested in, making sure they're not getting with someone that can't satisfy them in those levels. So, what advice would you ladies give to, those ladies? We're just being, transparent here. So.
I would say that it's first and foremost important to know your partner as much as you can, inside and out, even before you would even think about moving in, if it's prior to marriage. Before all of that, it's first and foremost important that you get to know your partner. You get to a point where you're so comfortable, that you're like, okay, it's not going to be perfect, but I know this person well enough, and he knows me well enough, that if we're going through something, this is how he's going to handle the situation. This is how I handle situations. Just kind of understanding that, okay, regardless of whatever other stuff comes with living together, if it's just leaving the cap off the toothpaste, leaving the toilet seat up, or whatever, just understanding, like, now me and my partner, we don't live together, but I know that's the man, because not only have we've talked about certain things, but I know that God has placed him to be in my life. So I think once you know that, everything else God can work through. Everything else God can work through. I don't necessarily feel like you have to live with your partner before you get married. It's all about your relationship with that person and your relationship with Christ, enough to, and not just enough, but to trust God fully, to say, hey, okay, God, if this is the person that you have given to me, if this is the man that you want me to marry, if this is the woman that you want me to marry, then I'm going to trust you that when we get to that point of our relationship, anything that tries to hinder us from being together, you will break that, or you will help, or you will guide us to get through those situations together. As far as the sexual satisfying part, that could be pretty tough, because I know that there's been women that would say, well, I did wait until marriage to have sex, and I was not sexually satisfied by my husband, and to them that was a big problem. So with that being said, I still don't believe, and I'm not saying I had a child before marriage, so this is not judgmental, judgment or me being, me chastising anybody. But although I've been there, I still do not believe that we are to be intimate before marriage. So I stand on that. I messed up, but I still stand on that belief. I don't believe that, so that one's a really tricky one. I don't know if I can answer that one. I'm gonna have to put that in one of the other pockets to deal. I can't help y'all
And
with
and
that.
and it's brilliant that Kayla did absolutely good. We got all these different perspectives and point of views, from the single woman to one in a committed relationship to marriage. So I want to ask all three of you ladies, what is too much? Like from that dating phase to actually get in the ring, Terrie, and also just being in a relationship where we were talking about men getting too comfortable. What about women doing absolutely the most? I'm sure we all had friends that have went in above and beyond, like traveling hours and flying across the country. You like, what, girl? Now what happened? So, what is too much? Cooking dinner and all this stuff every night, and you're not married, traveling, for hours here and there, paying out of your own pocket. What is too much in the courting to not married phase that a woman shouldn't do?
You just ain't supposed to be no wife. So to me, I feel like it's doing too much when, like you were saying, maybe cooking every night, or you're coming over there, you're doing his laundry, or, he got a doctor's appointment, you on the phone with the doctors, you're on the phone with his bill people, you handling his finances, y'all got a bank account together. That's just all that is too much. I feel like finances should come together once you are in the marriage state, when you've said I do. Now people have their own perspective, their own thing they do. I know women that have, bank accounts together with their significant other. They basically living at their house, and they cooking and doing their laundry, and going to Cancun, and which is fine. I want to trip to Cancun, so I ain't going. But just all kind of handling all of the man's business. They just doing everything a wife should do. And because that's when they get too comfortable. Like Miss Terrie was saying, they get way too comfortable. It's like, well, what's the point of me wifing her? She already having my babies. She already cooking my food every night. She handle all my finances. She working, and she break me off some money. She over here sexing me every night. What I'm gonna marry her for?
I actually have a friend. She's married, but even as a wife, there are certain things that I say she does too much. Like, she takes his car to the dealership to get oil changes. She makes all his doctor's appointments. She calls to confirm all his doctor's appointments, and she cooks every day. The one time that I remember, she asked him to season the meat. Apparently, dinner was horrible, and he blamed her for dinner. Like, for me, even as a wife, that all of that stuff takes it to mommy level. Like, at that point, you are his mom. Like, and I've had conversations with her about this, because she does his laundry and folds all the clothes. They got a dog together, and that's their baby. They wanted to, have this thing that they got him as a baby, and she walks the dog, she feeds. He can be sitting at home on the couch, and she's the only one that gets up to walk the dog, feed the dog, take care of the dog. And I'm like, girl, you are his mom. You need to be his wife and not his mom. So, like, even with being married, there's still sometimes just too much. Like, with me and my husband, we have compromises. If I cook Monday, Tuesday, he's cooking Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going out to dinner. Like, we make compromises so that things get done and nobody ever feels overworked or nobody ever feels overlooked. And I tell her this all the time. I'm like, he was so used to how his grandma and how his mom treated him and did things for him, and then he expects the same from her, and she allows it, but she gets frustrated because she calls me and is crying and complaining, but she's letting it happen. I'm like, there's no reason that you should be taking your man's car to the dealership. Like, my husband doesn't even let me put gas in the car if he's with me. There's no reason you should be taking your man's car to the dealership to get an oil change. He should be taking his car and your car to go get an oil change. So it there's a little too much when it comes to being married too. And I think because she's a wife, she feels like she's obligated. She's always like, oh, but a wife is supposed to be submissive and this and that. I'm like, yes, but that's not what they mean when they say be submissive,
Right.
you know? Like, that's too much.
We are not obligated to raise no grown man. I'm gonna
Right.
throw that out.
And that's a flag,
Sounds like codependency.
flag, a mama's boy. That's what we're going to need to add to
Yes.
the list. That's a mama's boy is a red flag. I don't do them. I don't do them at all.
Well,
Joe, when Joe started out, I said, now, are you a mama's boy? That's the first question. That was literally my first question. Are you a mama's boy?
I mean, to an extent for me, because if he doesn't have a good relationship with his family and his mom, then that's also a red flag for me.
But yeah. My thing is love. Yes, love and respect your mother. Definitely love, because they have what, like they say, the way he treats his mother is how he gonna treat his wife. So
Right.
definitely love and respect your mother. But if you still right here,
Yes.
you can't still
So,
be right here. You 30, you 40. You.
so what it boils down to me is just proper boundaries, setting realistic expectations, but having proper boundaries. What you explained, Terry, sounds like he's very codependent on her, and that happens all the time, in relationships, because people just the way we're taught how to do relationships, but it's a lot of people out in here in this world that just don't have proper boundaries, and so we do things out of false obligation, and it's not from even a genuine place, like or a sincere place. Is false obligation, and so setting boundaries is necessary to having a healthy relationship, to where it's like you said, Terry, like people aren't feeling like they're being overworked and drained, and it's a one-way relationship. Like, I'm giving, but I'm not receiving anything. I'm pouring out, but you can't pour it back into me. And so but having those proper boundaries, and sometimes once you're married and you're in relationships, like communicating, and sometimes you gotta what was I about to say? You have to teach people how to love you, you know, because we're, like I said before, we're always changing, and so the way that you love me then, I need it different now, and stuff. So teaching people how to love you, but that goes back to communicating and saying what you need and being able to identify that, So yeah.
If I
Love
love,
languages.
Well
Yep.
said.
Love languages. Yep.
yep,
Well said, ladies. And I know Miss Terry touched on being submissive, so that was going to be one of my, next questions. What does being submissive means to you ladies? Because some ladies hear that word and they automatically just look at her, Rachel face. Your faces are killing me, by the way. So I mean, they hear that word and they literally just jump off a full clip. Okay, so what does that word submissive means to you ladies?
I would be
Um,
really. Oh, go ahead, Cherrelle.
yeah, go ahead.
I would really like to understand more, because in my mind, what I feel like being submissive is people have different contexts, per, scripture. They look at the Bible and say, what does the Bible say about being a submissive woman to her husband? And it doesn't necessarily mean, she's obeying, because they see a lot of that concept is construed obeying. It doesn't have nothing to do with obey, you know. I feel like it does come with a level of respect for your husband. I feel like you're supposed to honor your husband, respect your husband, love your husband. If especially if your wife or your husband is God led, Like my current partner, he doesn't move at all unless God leads him. So when my partner says, hey, we need to make this move, because I know that he's God led, okay, this is you, God. So I'm going to be submissive to, and this is what I'm talking about when we're husband and wife, because again, that comes into doing too much. You're being submissive to a man that's not your husband, is doing too much. So when we become, husband and wife, I trust and I know that my husband is led by God. Therefore, when he says we need to make a move, or no, we need to do this way. Oh no, this is supposed to go down this way. I can be submissive to him because I'm following under his leadership as he is led by God.
Yeah. And to me, like, kind of piggybacking on what Rachel said, respect, being humble, just, you have to have trust in order to submit. Like the two just, one without the other is just not gonna work out well. I don't even think it's possible. Because like, even in our culture, just being African American women, that's a big thing. It's like, oh, Black women are loud and they run in the show and blah blah blah, but Black women have trust issues for valid points and reasons, and so yeah, we're not just handing the baton and handing over the duties and responsibilities just to anybody, and so like, going back to even just doing the work and even learning how to trust, learning how to love, you have to do your personal work, because Black women aren't taught how to be submissive. You feel me? So I go back to what I said in the beginning: doing your personal work, dealing with your childhood trauma, unlearning what you learned that was incorrectly, and embracing something new and being around healthy people. I feel like once you connect with healthy people as you grow, submission becomes easier. And I know that from just my experience, even as far as just leadership, it is not hard to submit when you trust people and you're around a group of individuals, because that's all it is. It's loving someone unconditionally. It's respect, and everything else just falls under that umbrella. Like, I can walk with you when I trust you. I don't have to question everything that you say and do, and vice versa, because submission is on both ends of relationships. It's not just on the woman's side. Okay. All right. So
Say that.
hey, we got women's intuition for a reason. Nah. And everything. And so it's on both ends. And so yeah, just respecting who you're with and loving them, and trusting the God in them, right? Being equally yoked, because how can you walk together unless you agree? And so yeah, but I think when you're with the right person and you're in a healthy relationship, it's easy to submit, even if you're not used to it.
Well said. Miss Terrie, what you got?
I agree. She mostly everything I was thinking she said. Because the first thing that came to my head was, being a Black woman, we don't want to hear you need to be more submissive. Like, I remember getting offended when somebody would tell me, oh, you're not submissive, or you need to be submissive. And I'm like, no, who do you think you are? Like, you're not going to tell me what to do and how to do it. But I think it's everything she said. It's not something we were taught to do. But once that trust and that respect is there, then it definitely becomes easier. And then when it's somebody that you genuinely love and care about, it just flows. And like she said, both sides, because he needs to be submissive too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of times, because people solely talk, they talk more on the women submitting to the men, but like both of them were saying, I do think it is us submitting to each other, because it may be areas that I'm more wise in that you're not. So I may need to lead in this area, and it's more areas where you're more wise in and experienced in that I'm not. So you may need to lead in that area. But I feel like if you're not, if that's not one of your strong points, then and I say, okay, well, hey, I know from experience we need to do this, this, and this, and this. I think it is important that the husband is also willing to be submissive to his wife.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like you don't have to argue that point with people who understand the principles of the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't understand the principles of the Word of God, then it's a whole nother story. But yeah.
That's
That
good.
just made me think of how a woman naturally hears God more than a man. So if God is pouring more into that woman and she's hearing it, then you're gonna have to take heed to the God in her. So
Mm-hmm.
man,
Mm-hmm.
y'all
That's
ladies
good.
is on it tonight.
That's good. Yeah.
I'm over here speechless because what Rachel said was like a whole bomb. I'm like, wow.
Yes.
And then what Cherrille was saying about the healthy relationships, I think as you grow, I mean that is huge, and I mean with friendships, with everything. So you was dead on with that one, sure.
Sherelle she got the wisdom and the therapy to come with it. I know that's right.
Right?
Yeah. But I have a question real quick. And if hopefully I don't know, whoever can answer this, because Rachel, you've been married, Terrie, you're married, and then hopefully whoever watched the broadcast and everything, I'll definitely like to hear their answer. But so we're talking about being equally yoked. So what happens in the beginning? You're equally yoked, right? Whether it's in sin or in God, and you're agreeing, you're walking in agreement, but then the agreement changes.
That's a good question. I think that's why it's very important for both as individuals to be God led, to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that our heart, mind, and spirit is open to hear and to see what God is showing them in that moment. If God has already placed the man and the woman together to be in covenant with each other, then I think it's just one of those things where there's different seasons. Every relationship goes through different seasons. And so if you believe that you're equally yoked, and then maybe there may be a season that you all go through where it's like, okay, I don't know, at first things were going good, but now we're going in a whole other direction. I really feel like it's important to hear God, fast and pray and say, okay, God, now I need some confirmation on this right here. What's going on here? Show me this, this, and this. Reveal to me what is that's going on in this moment. And so if it's not for me, then you can go ahead and remove that. If it is for me, guide me through how to get through this season of our relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Cause divorce is more popular these days, right? And if it happens, it happens. But say for the person that just they vow, like, I'll never get a divorce. I don't care what it's costing me. I could be losing my mind. I'll never get a divorce. But we're no longer in agreement. We're no longer like we was in sin when we got together, and I want to live for God. Like, but he still want to do his thing, or she still want to do her thing. Like, what do you tell somebody that just they're committed to that relationship, but it's almost like, I don't even want to say killing them, but it's you know.
I just think that takes a lot of prayer, a lot of counseling. I would definitely, and although I don't believe in divorce. I've never believed in divorce. My situation, he cheated, got another woman pregnant. Per the Bible, I was given the grounds. So that's why even then, I stayed for like I stayed because it happened at the very beginning of our marriage, like probably 2 weeks after we got married. He went and did what he, did. And I stayed for like 5 more months, and he just wouldn't, just wasn't going to change. So that was my reasoning for divorce. I do not in no shape, form, or fashion condone divorce. I feel like if you made vows with that person, you're in a covenant with that person. You all are now one flesh, and it's a situation where okay, at first things were good. Now it's like okay, I'm miserable. I'm to the point where I'm ready to just walk away. We're not on the same page. He's not even trying. I'm killing myself trying to do all the work by myself. I would recommend and advise to first seek counseling, therapy for the both of you and individually. And then to really just, I mean, it's gonna take the wives are the prayer warriors. Not saying the husbands don't pray, but the wives is to go in, regarding their marriage, regarding their house. That's the role of a wife, is to go and intercede for her house. So I think that is very important for you to get into your prayer life, talk to God, really, confront God about the situation and say, hey, now we're in a covenant. This, if it's the person that you're really supposed to be with, this is the person that you gave me, Lord. This it. He gave it to me. So, I'm coming to you because I feel like at this point, I'm getting ready to throw the towel in. This relationship, this marriage is about to kill me. I'm about to kill myself trying to, work for this marriage, and he not doing nothing. So I just feel like that's just a suggestion to try. At the end of the day, if you feel like it's just gonna take your life, I still don't condone it, but I'm not gonna say I don't agree, because I would have to be in that situation. Nobody can say, well, what you shouldn't do, and say what you shouldn't do until you're in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what my advice would be, is to really seek God, seek counseling, as a couple and individually. And if it just doesn't work out from there, then I just feel like wherever you feel the Lord is leading you to do, that's what you do.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Terrie, baby, you got some words?
I mean, I agree with you. My first thing would be to pray. Pray about it, pray on it, go to church, talk to God. Like that would be my go-to. Because the way I got that man was I prayed for him.
Come on.
So that would be I would just go straight to the praying, and then if it didn't go anywhere from there, then I would seek counseling, couples, marriage retreats, anything that can bring y'all together, separate, and if it didn't work, then and it's killing you, you got to let it go.
It's good stuff.
So I have a question on that, because of course we know what's biblical, and I've always had the question of, in the Bible, from my understanding, I don't know exactly where it's found. I don't even know if I really studied this, but just being, in church and talking to other godly people, you hear things. And so, now it's my understanding that, if you get divorced, first off, you just can't get divorced unless, the man is, committed infidelity. You got to die before you can divorce, unless the man. So what is your take on being and just coming from a spiritual, because I'm very spiritual. I'm a godly person. I'm God fearing, so I believe in the word. I don't always act on it, but I believe heavily in the word. It speaks about not divorcing unless you're given the grounds, and the grounds are infidelity. And then also the second part of that is getting a divorce and then going into another marriage. You're committing adultery, and the man that marries you is also committing adultery. Am I gonna go to hell because, or is my husband, my future husband, gonna go to hell? And I know we're not, but just figuratively speaking, like I'm committing adultery, and the man that decides he wants to take me as his wife because I made bad decisions in my past, now he committing adultery. What what is that about? Like I just want to be with the man you sent me, Lord. I know I messed up, but I want to be with the Lord. I want to be with the man you sent me, and he, if you put us together, are we in sin?
So, from my understanding, that's the Old Testament, right?
Yeah.
No.
Denise pointed out to me it's in the New Testament too, in Matthew. We had this discussion earlier today, so it's so funny. I'll jump in after you do, Cherrille.
Oh, okay. Well, go, Denise. What you saying, girl?
You gonna say with the
Unmute.
house? With the
Listen, this is absolutely hilarious. Me and Kayla's over here laughing because it's an insider, y'all. I literally posted "Is divorce a sin" on my page today.
oh wow.
And literally we were talking about it. Me and Kayla, we don't like to debate the Bible, but me and Kayla go in with each other on it, respectfully. And I agree with what Rachel was saying. I basically was saying, this is thus said the Lord in Matthew. I looked up the scriptures today, and Kayla was saying, what, because we do sometimes marry people that it's not of God. And, Kayla was saying all of that stuff, and God does give grace and mercy, but this is thus said the Lord. This is out of Jesus' mouth. And that was a question that the Pharisees, I read it today, y'all. This is the question that the Pharisees asked directly to Jesus Christ and asked on the grounds of divorce, what are grounds to divorce? And he said out of his mouth that you aren't supposed to unless it's adultery.
Right.
So, and what Rachel was saying. So, I mean, if this is what God said, Kayla was saying, read the whole thing in its entirety. But I'm like, it doesn't get any clearer than that. Jesus like, hey, no, this is not what's going on. So, and I just brought that up because, a lot of times we don't know. Like some things we're not clear on it. And us as Christians, we want to know. You know what I mean? And sometimes we point out other sins and things of that nature, but why is divorce one of those things that seem to be swept on under the rug and given grace? But everybody else can point out abortion and murder and, all these other sins. But thus said the Lord, you're not supposed to marry. You're not supposed to remarry. And you're not supposed to get a divorce at all. Whether that person is the one for you or not, you're going to have to stick it through because you are under a covenant with God.
Yep.
So
Yes.
that's my opinion on it. But I just think it was hilarious how the Holy Spirit just put that in me today to say. And then me and Kayla were just discussing it. So that's why we're over here dying laughing. So go ahead, Usher.
But to answer your question, Rachel, I don't think you're going to hell because you got a divorce. you know, um, that's my personal belief. Now, when you stand before the Father, don't tell him Cherrille. She was like, yeah, Cherrille's like, you know. But I mean, life
You're
happens.
going to be held responsible, Cherrille.
Look, I can only go with what I know. All right. So, right now, this moment, from what I know, I don't think you're going to hell because you got a divorce. Life happens. We get things wrong, right? Thank God for his grace and his mercy, right? Thank God for another opportunity to get it right. We shouldn't beat ourselves up because, of the choices we made. We should grow from them. We should learn from them, and we should teach our children to be better, and steer them in a path of a righteousness. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to have a daughter out of wedlock, right? I wanted to do it the right way. It was my heart's desire to do it the right way, you know. But life happens, right? 2 times, there go a baby. Oh man, you know what I mean? Like, Lord, for real? You're like, just 2 times. Like, I cried and was in it, Lord. And you, what? I wanted to do it the right way, but life happens. And so, I mean, it's a lot of stuff we have to contend for. We got to contend for the faith, And so I think just learning and growing, and getting it right. I mean, that's I'm gonna have to even go back and just read some more on that and stuff. Commitment is, in the culture we live in, is very challenging. Committed to anything, not even just relationships, sexual impurity, immortality. It's just, oh my goodness, it's like one of the top strongholds.
My diet.
You say your diet? Absolutely. I love food. I'm looking at I got some sound right here, but absolutely, we just gotta take the lessons, and grow and continue to grow, and do better and stuff. So I don't think you going to, thank God for Jesus. Now, if Jesus never came, I'll be like, you know, I don't know, that's sticky, but thank God for Jesus. Thank God for his grace and mercy. Thank God that he sent his son to die for us, for all of our sins, not some of them, but all of our sins, because he knew we was going to get it wrong more than once. And so, but yeah, we have to do better. We have to do the work that puts us in a better situation, and yeah, just keep growing. That's a
I
great,
feel
great
that
place.
I think we focus too much on what is a sin. We focus too much on the negative instead of the positive, right? So instead of us focusing on what is God's will for my life, because God will call somebody to be your spouse after you had a divorce. So would that be considered a sin? God don't allow sin to come into our lives. He allows what is right, what is true, what is perfect. So with us being washed clean, made new, we
Come
shouldn't have
on.
to worry about, is this a sin? Is it of God is the question.
That's
That's
good.
all I'm gonna say on it.
Come on, Kayla.
Let them know, girl. Let them know.
I ain't pitching on that one, girl. You got my
Wait,
pitch.
hold on. I'm gonna be the advocate here. So can something be sent from God when He said it was a sin? I don't know. I'm trying to understand. If He said it was a sin, and if you remarry, if it's not in Rachel's case, her husband committed infidelity. So him sending you a husband, Rachel, would be of God, because thus said the Lord.
Mhm.
You ain't in the wrong because he stepped out and did that. So therefore, God says you do have another husband. So that I'm just on that. So if it wasn't any infidelity, wouldn't that be? And he said you should not remarry if it's not that. Or I'm guessing if the husband passed away, the word is living, the word is truth, the word doesn't change. He's the same God forever, today, tomorrow. So, would that be of God? Would that husband be from God? This is
If
my
God's,
question.
yeah, we have to look at it that, yeah, the Bible was written, but not every single thing applies to our lives, right? We're living in a different time. We have to take into consideration the laws of today, things that we're experiencing today, and the fact that God's will is stronger today than it was ever because of, the times that we're living in, the end times. God is calling us to do this great thing in this world, and we're going to need our spouse in order to do it. And that spouse has to be someone that God has called and ordained for you. Their purpose is going to align with yours. They're going to do exactly what it is God has called you to do. You're going to be equally yoked. And so if that person that you were married to before that you got a divorce from wasn't of God, that was your sin marrying that person. God's grace is allowing you to be divorced and then allowing you to remarry to the person he has for you.
I
Yes.
believe. I
Those
believe.
those were my words. Yes.
I believe.
Because what if your first husband wasn't from God?
No,
You didn't
I
go
knew
with
it.
them.
You
I,
didn't pray for that man. That's not the
I
man you prayed for.
Mm.
So he didn't come from God.
so didn't.
He
And
came
I was
from
Mm.
sin.
all in my flesh, all in my China. I just want to be a wife. Because the one thing about it is, what I feel like you're a wife at birth. If God has placed it in you, every woman that wants to be a wife is not a wife, and every husband that
Speak
wants
it.
to be a husband is not a husband. A wife done came out. A wife is made from birth. 5 years old, she at her little baking oven trying to cook and say, "Y'all want something?" She's a nurturer at
Yes.
birth. A husband is coming out, and at 6 he's like, I want to be a police officer, I want to do this, I want to, he's already in the mindset he wants to provide for people. It comes at birth. So I feel like God has placed it in me, and to be a wife, and I've desired to be a wife for since I can remember. So it was just, and everything was in my timing.
Mm.
Man, he done came, and we laughed together, we had fun together. You want to marry me? He real, rough, and well, girls and already done went in my inbox and saying they done did this and did that with him. Well, it's all right. I'ma marry him. the Lord, no, daughter, that is not. I'm happy. I'm in love. I'm gonna marry him. And I did. And I got the consequences for that. I did. But I that was what caused me the desire of me wanting to be a wife is what caused me to fall into that. And so that's why I say it's very imperative, very important for the single ladies out there that you make sure that you wait. Like Terrie was saying, do not settle. The most important is wait. I wish I would have waited now. I wish I would have waited. I wish I would have allowed God to do it in his timing, and instead of
Yes.
satisfy my fleshly desires, and instead, it becoming my desire to just please God and allow him to say, hey, I trust you. You're my father. I know in your timing you will give me more than what I would even imagine, more than what I prayed for. So I'm going to allow you to do it. I would really, it's very imperative. I would really stress. I really do stress to wait on the right one, because y'all don't want to go into that. You get married and he's not the right one, and your life is miserable. You're hurting every day. All kind of stuff it could be going on, and it could be detrimental to you. For the long haul, long term. You sleeping around with other people, or then you can get no. You know what I'm saying? No telling, just no telling what can happen. So it's just very important. I would just really just wait on God and allow God to do it in his timing.
Well said.
Thank y'all
I
so much,
really
ladies.
enjoyed you ladies.
We ain't even we barely touched the
I
surface. So if
really,
we need to schedule a second part, we will. But
yeah.
this was amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
We need a part 2, ladies. I enjoy each and every one of y'all.
I'm
Yes.
down. I'm down.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yes. Be blessed on tonight. All the listeners out there know that God has it and he has the man for you. Just wait on him to reveal it. And don't step ahead of God either, because sometimes women go to men and be like, God said you was my husband. No, do
Wait.
not step ahead of God. Wait on him and allow the man to pursue you. That's
And
all I'm asking there. But tune in to
And
part
don't do
two
too
because we're
much.
gonna hit this again. We gonna dive deeper next time around.
absolutely.
Yes, you all be blessed and have a great night.
You too. You too.
Thank
Bye.
you.